All right, everybody, we're about 3 minutes after, and we've got a good number of attendees. So we're going to go ahead and get started. First, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Today, we're looking forward to talking about what it's like to start and build a career in technology sales as a woman. We're going to cover a number of topics, including the how and the why that each of the panelists got into sales, some of the unique challenges of it, and how they've worked to navigate these challenges. To start, I'm Jen Murphy. I run sales and channel sales, and business development here at Cockroach Labs, and I'm going to be moderating the conversation today. I'm going to ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves, and as they do that, give a little bit of background as to how they got into the technology sales. Carolyn, I'll start with you.
Absolutely. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining. My name is Carolyn. I am on the international team at Cockroach Labs. However, I'm based out of New York City. I have been working at Cockroach for almost a year now. I'm coming up on my year anniversary, and it's been a great year so far. The way that I got into technology sales specifically is my former company that I was at for about 2 years was an ad tech company. And I really found myself enjoying the more technical side of our offerings of our company. And so I found myself working very closely with our CTO and our development teams as I was continuing to sell that ad tech. And I realized that I wanted to get more involved in technology. And instead of selling something like an add-on service, I wanted to get deeper into the tech stack and sell something that's really fundamental to developers and their applications. So that's why that's how I found Cockroach DB and got into tech sales.
Thank you. Charlotte?
Hi, so my name is Charlotte Mastantuono. I'm part of the commercial account executive team here on the West Coast. I'm actually located in Los Angeles. I previously worked and lived in San Francisco. Prior to joining Cockroach Labs, I worked at Cloudflare. I sold to the commercial enterprise space there. And then prior to that, I worked at Databricks on the inside sales team, selling to the Apache Spark community. So the way I got into tech sales was living in the Bay Area. Obviously, you're surrounded by incredible companies that are doing amazing things for like their users, and that really inspired me to join this tech industry. And there's a lot of room for growth and opportunity. So that's really how I got engaged in the tech industry.
Thank you. Lexi?
Hi, everyone. I'm Lexi Paulin. I'm an account executive here at Cockroach Labs on the East Coast team. I'm also based in New York City. I come from a background of finance, and most previously before Cockroach, I worked for a market intelligence company selling their SaaS platform. Why I really wanted to make the transition from finance to sales is because I saw an opportunity. Sales in general is more of a male-dominated field, and I would say tech sales is even more so. So I saw that opportunity to grow and evolve and kind of change the landscape. I come from a background of sports or in track in college, so sales really made the most sense for me, being a competitive individual, but also working collectively as a team. So that's really what drove my decision, and here we are.
Thank you. Michael?
Hi, everybody. I'm Mikael Austin. I'm an account executive. I work for the West, but I live on the East Coast, so based out of New York City, but I get to work with a lot of startups in the West. So the way that I got into sales was a really interesting path, I think, but I guess a little unconventional. I started working at a tech startup, but not exactly in like a SaaS sales. I wasn't exactly sure what role at the startup I would want, but I knew I really loved startups. So I did a couple of different roles and found that I liked sales the best, but it wasn't the type of sale, like a SaaS sale that I wanted. So while I was at that company, I took a part-time coding bootcamp to learn the framework of coding. And better be able to sell to engineers, because like Lexi, I thought it was a really interesting type of sale, and that as a woman, it would give me a unique advantage because it's so male dominated. So I took the coding boot camp, did a sidestep and became a tech recruiter actually, which was a total different type of sale, still a type of sale. But through that company, I actually found Cockroach. And I realized that it was the type of company I wanted. It was the type of sale that I wanted to be doing. And it's such a unique challenge. It's very intellectual. You need to understand the product inside and out, but also be really emotionally intelligent. So it was the type of challenge that I wanted for myself. So that was why I went after that one.
Excellent. So before we move on and actually get into the conversation, if any of the attendees have questions, please feel free to post them in the chat and we'll address them as they come up. And kind of back to the group, we come at this from a lot of different angles. And I will tell you, I learned a little bit about each of you just now. So thank you for sharing in such great detail. But what I'd like to do is ask you about some of your experiences as a woman in technology sales. And not only your experiences to date, but how's it different from some things that you've done in your background, as well as what's unique about Cockroach Labs? What's it like here and what makes it that way? So Michael, do you want to go ahead and start us off on this one?
Sure. So the couple of things that I've encountered being a woman in sales, and particularly a shorter woman, which I think actually makes a difference. And I know Carolyn might be able to attest to this. One of the main things is when you're with a group of men, you're not really looked to as an authority. So just as simple as someone not making eye contact with you, it might seem really simple and like it doesn't matter, but in a lot of conversations over a long period of time, if people don't even look at you, it kind of makes you question yourself sometimes when you're like, do I not even know what I'm talking about? Because no one even will look at me, and they'll ask questions to the man next to me, even if he doesn't necessarily have the answer and I have the answer. So it was a challenge for me for a while to still be confident despite that happening. And I would say also, the assumption that my career is more of a hobby, that, I won't be doing it for more than 5 years, that, once I have kids, I won't be coming back to the workforce. So my pay or my success doesn't really matter long-term or like investing in me doesn't matter long-term because it's not something that I'm going to be doing for a long time. But at Cockroach, I actually feel very different, where no one is making assumptions about my life unless, they listen to me when I talk. Being a woman, people, if anything, I think listen to me more, because when we have conversations like this, like Cockroach is hosting a panel for us to be able to share our experiences. And I think that's so unique. And I never feel like people are thinking that my career is a hobby.
Excellent. Lexi or Charlotte or Carolyn, do you have anything to add?
So I would say I have a lot of similar sentiments to what Mikey was saying. But in regards to being seen as an authoritative figure, I think it's such a fine line. Generally speaking, I'm not seen that way because, at least in my from my perspective, I'm a woman, and I look a lot younger than I am. At least that's what I've been told. So I think it's hard for people to understand that I am the one closing the deals. I am the one, running my own book of business. Not at Cockroach, but in previous experiences, I've been asked on the phone for people to be directed to my boss, as if I didn't have that kind of authority. I think it's also interesting because those experiences shaped me in a way that made me more authoritative in my communication style. So I'm very direct, I'm very aggressive. I want to get to the point. I want to get there quickly. And if I'm too aggressive, or I'm not like quiet enough, a lot of times it's seen as being maybe a little over aggressive. It's seen as intense. That sort of ambition coming from a woman isn't interpreted the same way as it would coming from a man. So I think that's a fine line to walk, and that's something I've had to maneuver throughout my career so far. why Cockroach is different, and this is similar to sentiments that were said before, but I feel like we have a lot of women in positions of power, especially in sales. We're all incredibly ambitious, but we're also very much a team where if one woman is successful, she wants to share that success. She wants to lift while rising. She wants to really, help others achieve that level of success. And that's not something I've experienced before, especially being in previously more male-dominated companies where the female voice wasn't as heard. So it's truly a breath of fresh air to be at Cockroach Labs, where I really feel like my voice is being heard, and the work that I do is not only valued, but it's celebrated. So it's refreshing.
Great. Carolyn or Charlotte?
Yeah, I agree with Lexi. I feel like Cockroach Labs, there you don't see that gender difference and be treated differently. Whereas in my previous roles, I've definitely experienced that. And you have to find your voice and explain things a little bit more in detail and be more planned about your approach when it comes to meetings. And I've actually had that experience as well as being on the phone and they've asked, can I speak to someone else? Because they don't feel like you have that authority, which is kind of frustrating. But I definitely feel like now at my, with the new role I have here at Cockroach Labs, things are definitely changing. I feel like I don't notice that as much anymore. And I feel like that's really positive. But I also feel like depending on the environment that you're in is going to make a big difference. So I feel like we're very equal at this company, which, gives you the confidence to feel like when I jump on a phone call with a customer that I have that equal authority as my peers. So that really makes a difference.
Yeah, I echo everything that that Lexi, Charlotte, and Michael have been saying. There are absolutely challenges, just to be honest, with being a female, being a woman in tech sales. However, I think having a great support network and being at the right company are two really key things to allowing you to be successful. And going back to the point that has been stated across these women is really confidence. It's important to have confidence in yourself, but it's difficult to have confidence in yourself if others around you or your authorities don't have that confidence in you and don't allow you to have that confidence. So what's been really great at Cockroach Labs is we are, not only do we as confident women come in being confident, but we're supported in our confidence, and it's okay to be confident. We are given not permission, but it's celebrated to be confident. So learning to believe in yourself, and even if you are the only woman in the room or on the Zoom call, which is fairly typical in our line of work, knowing that your voice matters is a very important thing to keep in mind always when you're having conversations, because you are that key ally to your customer, to your prospect. And if you don't have confidence in yourself, how can you kind of share that confidence in the product and get the customer also feeling confident in you? So really believing and doubling down in your abilities. And it's additionally great to have your superiors also believe in you and support that confidence.
And kind of going off that really quickly, I think one thing I've learned that's helped me a lot, just in my current role and in roles I'll progress to in the future, is starting, in as early as I can remember. Honestly, I've always had to know not only as much, but more than every boy that was in the room. I need to be twice as prepared. I need to be twice as loud. And I'm very confident that I have the intelligence, I can articulate my thoughts, and I can get things done. So having that past of being underestimated it's really shaped me into the sales person that I am today, because I can get things done twice as fast because I'm going to work twice as hard and I'm going to know twice as much. And I think that's one of the sincere benefits of being an underestimated intelligent woman in technology sales, because you're on a lot of times going into a conversation, and I keep saying underestimated, but people aren't really expecting you to know as much, to be quite as forceful. So when you come out, just swinging, a lot of times it can be very effective.
I think you've all made some really great points, and having probably been at a few more companies than any one of you individually, one thing I will say is Cockroach Labs, it really is a level playing field, right? We celebrate diversity as an organization. We bring people in and everyone is equal. And that holds true through training. It holds through, sales reviews. There isn't any kind of gender bias that comes into the conversation. And I think that really helps us build confidence. All of the trainings that we go through, everything that's given to us to build not only our confidence, as you're pointing out, Lexi, but our knowledge base and our strategy and our skills in selling is something that I think is unique to the organization.
I think it's also like we have weekly all hands meetings and we have the same opportunities to present and share our story. We're not just looking up to the male peers at the company. We also get that same equal opportunity to show how we are running our business and how others can learn from us as an equal opportunity as well, which definitely builds the confidence as female potential leaders in the future in the software sales career.
And that, Charlotte, actually leads to a question that came in through Q&A, career pathing. So Nicole is asking for some thoughts and advice about women who want to transition from non-sales roles, so marketing or operations or some other background, into technology sales. And I know a couple of you have done that. So if you want to go a little bit deeper in your experience as to how you thought about it, how you approached that transition, and if you had support during that, who was supporting you and how?
Yeah, I can quickly start. So my degree was in events and business management, which is a lot of similar traits to sales and software sales, but it's very different at the same time. My husband's actually an account executive for another software company. And he really inspired me because I'd learned about the customers that he was working with, the deals, the use cases, and it was just very interesting to me. And, that kind of really started my career. I started as a SDR back in the day, like booking meetings. And I think that's also really important, is having a mentor in your life that can guide you the best practices, because there are a lot of lessons to be learned. And having that person who's a big influence on your life and kind of guiding you in the right way can be really beneficial.
I think also because when I decided I wanted to get into sales, it was really just seeing a certain lifestyle and a certain work-life balance and a certain personality that I really identified with. And I thought, I'm a really hard worker. I'm competitive. I'm super efficient. So the harder I work, the more successful I am, which I think applies more to sales in like a linear way than in maybe other roles. And I think it's really about how you frame yourself and how you talk about your past experiences, because you can talk about anything and be able to highlight sales skills, which I was able to do through, how I became a tech recruiter for a brief period, and then how I got a job in tech sales after being a tech recruiter. And my degree was in psychology and I did a minor in business, but I really spoke about how I was able to learn like the scientific reasons that make humans act the way we do. So how I can apply that to sales. It's really just being able to find like something that uniquely sets you apart and makes you uniquely qualified. So for me, in a way, it was that unique experience I had that made me suited for sales, but also the coding bootcamp I took, where I could say, look, I put in the time to do this so that I can better sell to engineers. And that made people take me more seriously.
Yeah, and kind of going off of that, I think, at least in my experience, sales jobs that I've interviewed for or pursued, they've often told me, the hiring managers, that it's the intangibles that they look for more so than your background or your degree. I majored in broadcast journalism and I minored in business and philosophy. Did I think in college when I was starting out as an 18-year-old that I would end up in tech sales? No. I started my career in finance. I knew I didn't like that. So I, like Michael was saying, looked at my resume and because, you have to be your own best advocate. So what do you have? What traits do you possess that will make you an asset to your company and to your sales team? For example, the biggest intangibles that I've seen in very successful sellers is teamwork, being incredibly persistent, and being able to accept rejection but not let it affect how hard you will work and how you will want to get better every day. So just keeping in mind that you can groom yourself to be anything that you want regardless of your background, but it's going to take that hard work, that looking internally and seeing what traits you have that will translate into the role that you want.
Excellent. So one thing I would add to that is I think in an organization where sales is a function, that every bit of the organization somehow touches that. And to seek someone out who aligns to your specific role, whether it's marketing or operations, and befriend them and ask them to mentor you and just shadow them in their process. So not only take advantage of what everyone was saying, building your skills, identifying what you have innately to help you in sales, but also find someone who can, I'll use the term mentor because that leads nicely into the next conversation topic, but who can mentor you in the process and kind of through the stages of migration into a sales role. So that does lead us nicely into our next topic of conversation, moving on to mentorship. It really truly is an essential component of growth in anyone's career, regardless of where you fall in an organization. There are not a lot of female mentors in this industry. So can you guys give a little bit of insight as to, how are you finding mentors? Have you found female mentors? And, what's the process been for you? And, where do you see gaps and how do you want to try and fill those gaps? Carolyn, can I ask you to start us off here?
Absolutely. So mentors, of course, are really crucial in helping you advance your career in sales. And for me personally, my experience, my former company, I had a female CEO, which doesn't come around as often. You don't find female CEOs, CEOs who are women as often as maybe we would like. But I learned a lot from her and really was able to develop a strong relationship with her as she taught me how to stand firm and be strong as the only female in the room. At Cockroach Labs, I've been really fortunate to have my boss actually really functions as my mentor as well. While he's a male, you don't necessarily have to have a female as your mentor, or non-binary, whatever you identify as. Any person can be your mentor if you feel like they have your best interest at heart. And I've been really fortunate to have a boss function as a mentor, and I'm able to ask questions fearlessly, to get honest feedback and really consider what my goals are and work with him to understand and think through how I can achieve those goals. I still stay in contact with my former CEO, and I also have people along the way that I've worked with that have also been influential people in my life. So there might not be one specific person guiding you along, but I also like to think, there's always opportunities to learn from others. So I really try to surround myself with, and this is why I joined Cockroach, honestly, surround myself with brilliant people who know more than me and people who I can learn from. So whenever I don't know something or feel like I can learn more about a topic, I'll seek out the person with the most knowledge on that topic, which has been really an outstanding but humbling way to go about learning about our product, about sales and technology sales, but really leaning on the people that you need to and understanding who you can learn from, how you can kind of squeeze information out of them, and then figure out how that relates into your kind of growth trajectory throughout your career.
Yeah, and I would agree with what Carolyn was saying. I have predominantly had male mentors throughout my career, and I think that was honestly just by chance. Those are the people that saw the most in me, that saw my potential. I think it's also indicative of the fact that, and this is changing, but historically, men were in more positions of power. But I think that is changing. And what I love at Cockroach Labs is we have, women like Jen who are incredible, who are incredibly intelligent and care about you and want you to succeed and want you to do your best and really thrive in your work life and your personal life. So, we have that support. It's also about, the network that we have at Cockroach Labs that will supersede our careers at the company if we do end up in the future, changing paths. It's this network that we've built. We're so intertwined. We're so supportive of one another that it will really, help us wherever we go, whatever we do. So I think we can all, kind of act as mentors to each other as well. I know at least the sales women at Cockroach Labs, we collaborate on an hourly basis.
Yeah, and I think, I mentioned that, starting off, my husband was definitely my mentor. He had a lot of experience. He was already in the industry. But, since then, like you've both mentioned, you can have multiple mentors in your career path. So like Jen's been amazing. We started around the same time. So she's been someone that I can always reach out to, whether it's personal or work related, which is a really great benefit to have at a new company and just having that relationship in general. But then also, when I look for a mentor, I don't look for the gender specific. I don't look, okay, I need a woman that's going to be my mentor. I look for the person who's got the most experience, who's going to give me their time and who really wants to train me and see me progress and become better. I've actually been working with a CRO at Cockroach Labs, Jeff, and I've really enjoyed the experience that I've had being able to have him as my manager and working on a deal at the company. I've learned so much in this process, and I think that's really, really important. You need to be guided by someone that wants to help you succeed.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would say Jeff is also managing me right now, and he in a way is a mentor to me where I'm learning so much and I'm able to just ask him questions and not feel like he's going to perceive me as dumb, and he's going to be receptive and help me along with those questions. And similarly, Jen has helped me with a lot too, where on one particular deal that was lost, which she didn't even have to do, but she was like, do you want to sit down and go through this? And we could go through step by step where it went wrong or if you could have done anything different. And it was just like going above and beyond, and it helped me so much, helped me learn. And now I know I'll come to Jen with any question I have. But I think it doesn't, a mentor doesn't have to be a man or a woman. You'll find certain qualities that you sync with in different people. So the same person that might be a good mentor to me might not be a mentor to like Lexi or Carolyn or Charlotte, just based on personalities. But I don't think it has to do with gender.
Great. And we do have a follow-up question from the first one, but one thing I'll say is, I have been in the industry for a while, and this is actually my third time working with our CRO, Jeff. And as you look at mentors and you look at peers who can help lift you up, things evolve over time. He and I have had brother-sister relationship over time, and now we really look to each other and leverage the skills we've built over the years and help educate each other. and you lead together. So mentors are not only people who are senior to you, they're peers that are growing different ways and help you expand. And also thank you all for the kind words. I'm blushing. But it's a pleasure working with everybody, and not only in the sales group, but across the organization. And I think everyone is interested in not only learning from each other, but helping add to skills from other people here, which again is really unique to the organization and how we foster that. But the follow-up question is, for women who are further in their career, do you need to take an SDR role, or can you apply for a more advanced job? I think you can apply for more advanced jobs. I think you need to be willing to take something that might not be directly in the path of where you want to go. I can't remember. I think I was talking to one of you, maybe Charlotte, where I was discussing the fact that I took some strange jobs along the way to get to where I am. And sometimes they were sidestepped. Sometimes they were, completely walking into a different room, but leading me back with a broader skill set and the ability to have different level of accomplishment in my next role. SDR, I do think understanding the fundamentals, if you want to go from something else into sales, it's a great place to start, but certainly not a requirement. And I would love to hear what you guys have to say about that.
I think, oh, go ahead, Charlotte.
Okay, so I started from the SDR role. So I started, the bare minimum, like the SDR, you're just managing inbound leads from the bottom. And even though obviously now I'm in a closing role, this is exactly where I want to be. I'm so glad that I learned the experience from starting as an SDR to becoming an AE, because a lot of what I do day to day now is still very much that role as well. I still have to prospect, I still have to outbound, I still have to learn how a call needs to be run properly. And I think it's hard to get an opportunity where you can go straight into a closing role and not have had that experience. That's what I noticed. I don't think many companies will take you kind of that seriously at this point if you haven't had that real SDR experience where you've managed leads, you've got the Salesforce experience, you've used different sales tools. I think that's really essential. But there may be opportunities out there that you don't need to. If you have like a solid foundation that you can apply those similar skills and go into a closing role, there's always that way as well. But if you're completely fresh, new, coming out of university, and you're looking to go straight into software sales, typically I think you would start at the beginning in the SDR role, which is fine. That usually takes a year, and you get really great, valuable experience that you can then take forward as you go into a closing role.
I agree with that. And also, I kind of had to face this when I was interviewing at Cockroach. So I knew I wanted to go into this type of SaaS sale. And ideally, I did want to be in a closing role, but it's so dependent on the company. I interviewed at a company maybe 3 months or 2 months before Cockroach, and they offered me this like senior SDR role. And I was like, oh no, I'm not going to do that. Like, I want to be in a closing role. SDR seems like a step down. And it didn't feel right at the company. And 2 months later, I was offered the same thing at Cockroach, but I saw like the upward trajectory was really presented to me in a way that I saw opportunity. And I ended up deciding it was a good fit because of Cockroach. It's so dependent on the company. And I ended up getting promoted after I was initially hired as an SDR really quickly into a closing role. So it all proved worth it. So I would say, sometimes you might have to take that half a step back to be in the place that you really want to be in a year or two from now. And if it's at the right place, you need to do your due diligence and make sure that the opportunity and the growth is going to be there for you. But sometimes it's worth it taking that half a step back, because you'll be 2 steps ahead in the long run, or sometimes even the short run.
I think Lexi and I also had a similar experience.
Yeah.
Mikey, not to speak for you, Lexi, as well, but of course we all work together. We know what's happened at Cockroach, but the SDR position is a really valuable place to learn. It does feel like, for me, it felt like a step back as well. But as Mikey said, do your due diligence. It's important to ask those questions while you're interviewing, to really understand what the timeline looks like. What is it going to look like in a year? after I've done this SDR role? What does the SDR role entail? Is it just grinding work, or are you also learning? If you're learning and someone's investing in your career, it's an absolutely great place to start and really gives you that credibility and foundation to build on.
Yeah, and just really quickly, I've mentioned I started my career in finance, and I knew I wanted to get in sales, and I knew I needed to be an SDR to build the foundation because I didn't really have solid sales experience. So not only did I was managing a team at a large bank, and I took a step back and became an SDR. I took a pay cut, but I knew that it would pay off in the long term. So I would just see it as making an investment in yourself and putting in the work.
Excellent, guys. Great experiences, and I think great recommendations on how to approach it. So I'm going to move us on a little bit. I'm cognizant of time, and there are a couple more things I'd like to cover. This one's a little specific to one of our panelists. A topic that often comes up is parenting. So, it can be daunting to think about. No matter where you are in your career, no matter where you are with the age of your children, it's something that you need to take into account. And as you're starting a family, pausing your career and thinking about that to add a new member to the family can really be scary. I know my experience almost 20 years ago wasn't a great one, but I think a lot has evolved, and I really think that Cockroach Labs does a phenomenal job helping people in the organization know that we're here to support you. And Charlotte, you mentioned we joined at the same time, and I would love for you to share about your experience, joining with a toddler, going through a lot of what's gone on in the last couple months, and some new experiences you have ahead of you.
Yeah, of course. So I think just generally, one of the biggest lessons I learned becoming a mum and having a career in software sales is that you have to accept that you can't do everything. You have to have, a solid childcare plan in place that you're really comfortable with, that you feel supported by, your child's going to be looked after the best way, which then allows you to focus on your job and do really well there. So that's like my first thing that I learned. Is just always have a good system in place so you can be able to do both pieces very well. And joining a company and having a toddler, my daughter was like 17 months old when I joined, and she's amazing. We have that great care, so I wasn't too worried or too concerned. And also I knew I was joining a company that had an amazing culture, and a lot of people at the company have kids as well, which always makes life a little bit easier when you can speak to people who are in a similar situation to you as well. And also, I started with Jen, and when I had onboarding in New York that first week, she has a daughter as well, so we'd have those conversations and share those stories, which was really nice and made me feel very comfortable. And also, when I started in January, we actually relocated from San Francisco to Los Angeles, and everything had to change. I had to update childcare. You got to organize a whole brand new place and your home setup, your work environment. And, this can be a daunting challenge on its own. But it was actually really easy because I planned efficiently, and I felt like I was at a company that supported my personal goals to making that move and being supported during that transition, which makes a huge difference. And then on the next topic, you said, obviously with this current situation we're in now of COVID-19, obviously this has brought many new challenges to all parents. It's definitely not an easy time, especially if yourself and your partner works full-time. This can be really difficult. Fortunately for us, we've been able to continue our childcare during this time, but there's been a few weeks that our daughter has been home. We both are account executives, and we have calls, throughout the week. And I think the way we've been successful is being able to communicate with one another and be a team on, what do you need? When do you need coverage? This is what I need from this day. I need to be able to join these calls, and you work together and compromise. I think that's really, really important, because there shouldn't be one person in the household that has to take more responsibility than the other. Like, I am the mother, but it shouldn't just be on me to sacrifice my needs and my job because we have our daughter at home. I think, you know, it's really about communication and saying, like, I want to be as successful as you in your career, so we need to make this work for both of us. And then the final point, yeah, so I recently announced at Cockroach Labs that I'm having my second daughter. So I'm very, very excited. And, you know, I really want to inspire other women that you can have, you know, a toddler running around and you can take that time to have another baby and still be as successful in your software sales career as another woman at the company that isn't choosing to have children at this time. Like, you still can be as successful regardless of your personal situation. You just have to adapt and obviously prepare to take that time out, but come back and still be in the same situation, still be closing those, you know, $1 million deals, still be working your way up to a management role. There shouldn't be a reason why you can't be equally as successful. I feel like just currently at this moment in time, I feel like it's very common to feel that social pressure that you can't take that time and it's never a convenient time, which, you know, I really hope that I can inspire people that, you know, it's okay. You can do that and you can come back to work and still be as genuinely successful as everyone else. So I think based on everything I've said, it really comes down to being at a company that is going to really support you. And that's one of the amazing things at Cockroach Labs, is that we have this solid maternity plan, which in America is hard to find. You know, it's not offered at every company. And, you know, we have a maternity plan that offers you 14 weeks fully paid. You can come back and have 12 weeks flex Fridays. And you also have a buddy system where you can communicate with that one person while you are out of office and they can update you on the things that are important to you. So I think this is also very unique to the company. And another reason why I just feel really comfortable and confident to be able to make this, you know, to be able to have these personal life-changing experiences, but continue being really successful in my role as well.
Very well said. And, you know, again, congratulations. We're very excited for the new Rocher coming into the world.
Yeah.
Just to add to what you said, Cockroach Labs is probably the most unique organization relative to this whole process. So you mentioned the buddy system and the proactive approach to saying, you're going to go out, we want you to feel completely comfortable, completely supported, and you get to structure how that looks and how that's executed. It's something I've never even seen in the industry before. So huge hats off to our HR team and, you know, just the way that they want the employees to feel as they grow, not only, you know, their careers, but their lives with the company. So my passion aside, you were kind of coming down to the end of the hour. So I'm going to pose one last question to each of you. You know, what would you say to someone, a woman who is seeking to start or grow her sales career? I know we've talked a little bit about it, but really kind of taking a different definitive lens on it. If each of you could just give a little thought, that would be fantastic.
I can go first, I guess.
Go ahead, Michael.
So first, I would say pull up a chair for other women. You know, if one woman on your team or not on your team, just another woman in general is successful, it doesn't mean you can't be just because there are so few. It actually reflects well upon you to have, you know, the woman as a whole being very successful. So always pull up a chair and be inclusive. And like Lexi said, lift while rising. I would also say, just, I guess, women in business in general, that you don't owe anyone anything aside from yourself. So, you know, and that can mean different things to different people, but I would say, you know, we always try to do everything and make everybody else happy. And I even, you know, I sometimes think setting limits is saying no, but then I'll still think I have to like justify the no and provide an explanation. But you don't always have to provide an explanation. You know, you just owe it to yourself. And I would say also look for an organization with the management that is going to help you excel, because it can be hard to identify what's wrong if you don't know it's wrong. The first job I had for 4 years, I didn't even realize kind of how broken it was until I came to Cockroach and was like, oh my God, wow, my boss does check-ins with me and cares about my career and wants to teach me things and make sure that I'm on the path that I want to be on. So look for a company that's going to offer you that, because the way that I interact with my manager now is going to help me my entire career. And I'm on the path that I want to be on. And he's helping to make sure of that. So I think having a boss and a overall management at a company that's doing that for you and checking in with you so that they can also be looking out for your best interests, or is checking in with you so you can be voicing your interests, is really important.
Yeah, I'll build off of Michael's comments. So I think a couple things that are important with being a woman in sales, in tech sales, is to believe in yourself, and to believe in yourself so much that you allow yourself to achieve what you want to achieve. And that can be by giving yourself, making sure you have all of the knowledge that's out there, all the information that you need to be successful. Set yourself up for success. And that really starts with believing in yourself, getting all of the knowledge and information that you need to sell the product and be compassionate and understand the customer's needs. And then additionally, just, believing in yourself, being confident, and know that you are good enough, and to not be afraid to ask questions. Be fearless and know that there are others like Jen who have paved the way for us. To be frank, I think we're really lucky that we can lean on someone like Jen and other people, and know how many strides have been made for women in tech sales, and we're going to keep pushing and moving the needle, and we're going to continue to try to break that ceiling.
Yeah, absolutely. And going off of what Carolyn was saying, I think being fearless is really, really important. At least from my experience, what I would hope people can learn from my career path is to really work for what you want and not to let outside factors or people surrounding you, your peers, determine where you take your career. You need to be confident in what you want and work your hardest to get there. Just be your best advocate. Equip yourself with the knowledge, with the skills, with everything necessary that you need to be a force to reckon with. Be the person that walks into the room that no one can deny is the best for the job. Just don't try not to have that chip on your shoulder where there's not a huge representation of women in tech sales, and just instead work your hardest to try to change that. That's all I have to say.
I think so. Everyone's given so much great advice. I think my point to finish with would be, if you're looking and you're completely new to the tech industry and you're just trying to find that first opportunity, I would look at the different types of technology out there and what gets you excited. I personally like to go, work for a company that the technology really excites me. I feel like we're actually helping other businesses be incredibly successful, because when you have those days where you're grinding and it's hard and you're not getting any responses, you're not going to get down by that, because you know that the message that you're reaching out with is you're trying to help their business. And that really motivates me every day. Is like when I jump on my laptop and I'm looking to speak to a new prospect, is that I know that we can really help their business be more successful. So for anyone looking to start a career, I would really dive into the different companies that are out there and what different technology you can possibly sell. And like the girls have said, like, be really confident. There isn't many women in this industry, but that doesn't mean that you can't be successful. It doesn't mean that you can't be the leader in this space. So I wish everyone who was on the line, good luck, and we can do this together and be really successful.
Thank you all. And maybe I'll sum it up in a couple bullets and add one is, know what you want, be prepared, be more prepared than anybody expects you to be. Do something that gets you out of bed in the morning, get excited. And to quote Mr. Rogers, look for the helpers on the mentor front. They're there. And people in general want to make you successful. I would say we probably have an overabundance of that here at Cockroach Labs. And I'm very excited that I made the decision to come here. I think you've got that message from all of us throughout this whole call. And I want to thank everybody on the panel. You guys did an awesome job, and I really appreciate your insights and your honesty throughout the whole time. And on that, we will end our conversation. Please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions, and we appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for moderating, Jen.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.